What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Today is April 26, 2024. It's about 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time here in the US. I am live from South Florida, and today we are going to be talking about why this is potentially your last opportunity to buy Bitcoin probably below $70,000. I don't know how long this opportunity is going to last, but this is potentially your last chance to do so. And in today's video, we're gonna talk about why that reason is. So if you guys are in here, if you guys are checking us out, make sure to say what's up in the comments. I see Ace Flight. How you doing, buddy? I am doing great. Great to see you in here. If you guys are still on Instagram, make sure to come over and hop on YouTube. Just go to YouTube, search up Bitcoin Daily, and we are live. We're going to be talking about why this is potentially your last opportunity to buy Bitcoin. So let's go ahead and dive right into it without wasting any more time. Let me make sure, let me know how the volume is for you guys here on YouTube. I lowered the music. Want to make sure that you guys can hear me good so that we can go on from here. As you guys can see right now, let me put the chart on because the chart is pretty ugly today. Bitcoin is down currently about almost 2% on the day. It's down about 1.5%. Currently sitting around $63,000. So it's been ugly, guys. It's been an ugly kind of an ugly week, right? We had earlier on in the week, it wasn't too bad. We had the higher highs, higher lows set up. It was trending very nicely on the lower time frames, on the 4-hour. But recently we got this break here back below $66,000, which led us down to where we currently are in this range, sitting around $63,000. So that is a little worrisome. You know, for the short term, of course, I'm not worried about it long term, but it's worrisome in the because we might drop lower back down to that $60,000 range again. So that's why I would say it's worrisome in the short term, just because I don't want the prices to go that low again. I want to see this thing start trending back to the upside. But the reality of it is that right now we're trading within a range. So if we zoom out a bit here, and then I know this chart is a bit cluttered because I put a lot of different things here. But if we just kind of go to this clean chart right here, and we zoom out, let me just move this deviation off the chart here. You can see that we're trading within a very, very specific range here. So you can see the range we've been in. And I'm not really expecting it to change much. I'm not expecting much to change here in the chart, maybe for the next 90 days or so, right? And the reason I say 90 days is due to historical data around the Bitcoin halving cycle, how Bitcoin typically performs after a Bitcoin halving event. So let's go ahead and take a look at that really quick. If we look here, I've basically drawn out the entire halving cycle on what, you know, I've broken it down into 5 different phases, how I think it's going to happen based on what it's done historically, right? So, you know, what is it called? Past performance doesn't guarantee future results. And, you know, history doesn't repeat a lot of times, but it often does rhyme. So looking back, we can go all the way back and we can see back in 2020, we had basically the same exact thing where we had, we broke the halving cycle into 5 different phases, 5 different patterns. And if you go further back than that, you'll see it in 2016, the same exact cycle, same exact phases, same exact patterns, right? So it's a somewhat predictable behavior that Bitcoin has during the halving cycle. So every 4 years, it has a pretty predictable behavior. It's not going to be exact, but it's gonna be similar, right? So that's the major thing that we're focused on. So using that data on what Bitcoin has done historically, we wanna pretty much we're trying to build out a build out its patterns, right? And try to figure out what it's going to do next, because that's always the idea, right? If we can figure out what Bitcoin's going to do next, then we can basically print money, right? So what we do is play with probabilities. Remember, trading and investing is a game of probabilities. You're looking for an edge. You're looking to try to predict the most possible scenario that's coming next. And that's why I've built out this model here where I've broken it down into 5 phases. Currently, we're in the post-halving accumulation phase. And this is exactly why I'm thinking that it is your final opportunity here to really, hold on a second here as I'm going to end the live stream on Instagram, guys. Catch me on YouTube. Let me end this really quick. All right, there we go. So like I was saying here, we had the pre-halving pullback, right? And look at how this performed, right? We had the pre-halving rally phase, and look at how Bitcoin performed. Then the pre-halving pullback, look at how Bitcoin performed. Now we're in the post-halving accumulation phase, right? So what we're expecting during this phase is for Bitcoin to just kind of range where it's been, right? We're expecting it to just kind of do something like this, right? Where it goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down, but nothing significant, right? So that range is going to be anywhere between $60,000 to its previous all-time high, probably $73,000, right? So that's what I'm expecting, honestly, in the next few months, because that's what Bitcoin has done always during this period. Look at this. Bitcoin, the post-halving accumulation phase, while it was there, look at what Bitcoin did. It went down, it went back up to the top of the range, it faked people out up here, boom, dropped back down to the bottom of the range. Then finally, as the post-halving rally phase kicked in, look at what price did. Boom, broke out, right? If we go all the way further back, even if you don't believe, if that's not enough data for you, we can go further back, right? Same thing, guys. We have the post-halving accumulation. This line here, this is the halving. This is when the halving happened. Look at what happened after the halving. Bitcoin it dropped down, it kind of bottomed out there, and then it went up. It took about, this one took a lot longer. This one took about 147 days, right? The previous one took about 70 days. So that gives us an average somewhere around 90 to 100 days where we can expect just kind of an accumulation area, right, for Bitcoin. So that's basically what I've drawn out here. We have it set at 91 days, and now it's not going to be a specific number, so that's not too important. What's important is that we catch the overall range, right? And it's going to be somewhere there between that 90, 100, 110 days, somewhere in that range is where we're going to have Bitcoin most likely just kind of accumulating here and trading within this range, similarly to what we've seen back here for the last month or so. So that's pretty much what we're looking at. And because of that, this is why it's your last opportunity potentially to buy Bitcoin here below $70,000. Because once we break into the post-halving rally, this is phase 5, Bitcoin's going to take off, is going to set up new all-time highs, and it might not return here for a very long time. And, again, we can see that here. Look at what happened here. Bitcoin took off. Once it hit the post-halving rally, look at this. Guys, look at this. Look at these green candles. Look at this. Bitcoin never, once it left this range, it came back and revisited it. It revisited the top of it one last time before, just complete takeoff and to never return again. Let's see, did it ever return, period? Nope. Because this is the bottom here, right? Bitcoin literally never went back to that range. So it's a high probability that we see something like that again here, where, you know, sometime after July, I would say August, September, we start seeing a break to the top, maybe one last pullback down here to the top of the range. And then Q4, October, November, December, we see Bitcoin's price, you know, go beyond $100,000 is my prediction for the end of the year. So that's pretty much where I'm at with it. And you know, there's a potential that Bitcoin never pulls back to this area here where where Bitcoin's price is currently sitting at. So that's something to keep in mind. That's something to remember, because this could be your last opportunity to buy Bitcoin at current prices before it really takes off after 3, 4, 5, 6 months, and we never see these prices again. So let's look at how Bitcoin has performed historically. And I did a post on Twitter on this. I did a post today on Instagram on this. How Bitcoin's price has done historically after the Bitcoin halving, going all the way back to 2012. So let's take a look. Let's take a look at this real quick. I'm gonna pull up the data here. Let's see, where is it? I think this is it here. Yeah, here we go. So let me put it up on the screen. So 2012, this was the first Bitcoin halving ever, right? You can see that on the halving day, Bitcoin's price was sitting at $12.35. 1 month later, Bitcoin's price was at $13.45. So it went up 8.9%. Not a big deal, right? 3 months later, we see it went up to $30.25. Now, 144% move. That's a big move. And it happened within the 3-month period. But remember, this is 2012, when Bitcoin's market cap was very, very small. So it didn't take a lot of money to move the price. So it's going to be different now in 2024 than 2012, because Bitcoin's market cap, money in Bitcoin is a lot bigger. So it takes a lot more money to move the price, right? So now when we look at 6 months later, now is when we really start to see this move, right? Talk about look at $12, 6 months later, $133. So compared to the first 3 months, that's a big difference, right? That's a huge, huge jump. And then you look 12 months later, now Bitcoin hit $1,000. This is, guys, 8,000%. And again, I'm not expecting a move like this. Remember, 2012, Bitcoin's market was very, very small. It was a lot easier to move the price up. I'm not expecting a return like this. Just to give you guys an idea. And then 18 months later, it had a pullback, so back at, but still from the halving day price, up over 4,000%, right? So that's the first one. That was the first halving ever in 2012. So how did it continue doing historically after that, right? So let's take a look at 2016. So now we're looking 4 years later, the second official halving, 2016. On halving day, price was sitting at $650. 1 month later, big difference from 2012, right? 1 month later, it was down about almost 10%, down 9.26%. 3 months later, it was still down. It did go up a little bit, but again, still down, lower than the halving day price. It was down about 5.5%. Now, when we go out to 6 months later, now it was at $902, up 38% from the halving day price. Go out a little further to 12 months later. Now we're talking about $2,500, 287% move from the halving day price. And then 18 months later, $15,000, over 2,000% gain from the halving day price. That is insane, right? And the crazy part is, when I first got into crypto, this is the price that I got in at, around $650. And remember, 18 months later, it was at $15,000, but that wasn't the peak. The peak was a few weeks before at around $19,000-$20,000, right? So that was 2016. Now let's take a look at 2020. This was the last Bitcoin halving that happened. And again, sticking with the trend, we're seeing the same exact trend, guys, just over and over and over. It's consistently happens. It's been a predictable trend, a predictable pattern, right? The first 3 months, there's not a lot of movement, right? Here we did have it did go up a bit, and it did a lot better than 2016, right? It was up 12% 1 month later, up 34% 3 months later. But again, nothing too crazy. Now, 6 months later, it was up 78%. So now we start seeing, at the 6 month point is when you really start to see that supply shock come in from the Bitcoin halving, right? 12 months later, $56,000. Now, 12 months later, supply shock is already obviously a big factor, and we can see that, right? And then 18 months later, the price was all the way up to $65,000, 634% up from the halving day price. So as far as what we might see this time around, I'm expecting something like this at the 6, 12, and 18 month. Maybe not 500 and 600% from halving day prices, because that would be a lot. But I'm expecting it to event, when we look back in time a few years from now, I'm expecting to look at the 2024 halving, the fourth halving, and for this to look something like this. It's not going to be exactly, but it's going to be something similar to this pattern where, the first month, not really much change. 3 months later, we started seeing some change. 6 months later, we could see a big change. 12 months later and 18 months later is when I'm expecting Bitcoin's price to be topping out at that point. So that's pretty much the exact way that I'm seeing it right now. And that's exactly what this chart shows, right? That's exactly how I've broken down this chart. It's in 5 phases. That's pretty predictable every 4 years. And if we play this the right way, we can maximize our profits here. So that's the whole idea with breaking things down like this, we want to maximize profits. We want to be able to get in and get out at the perfect times so that we can make the most money possible. So let me now tell you guys, and I'm doing a full video on this, where it's basically breaking down the easiest optimal buy and hold strategy for Bitcoin. Hold on. I already recorded the video. I'll have it out next week. But basically, I went over using my own experience, right? I bought Bitcoin back in 2016 around $650. I looked at 3 different buy and hold possibilities, right? The first one was just buy it and hold. That's it, right? Never selling. And if I did that, right? If I bought one Bitcoin for $650 and just held it and never sold till today, right in this moment, it would be worth about $63,000, whatever the price of Bitcoin is right now, right? The worst strategy was if I bought 18 months after the Bitcoin halving and sold 6 months pre-halving, right? That was the worst possible thing, because basically you were buying the top, selling the bottom. And this is what happens with a lot of retail traders. They end up coming in too late. They come in at the top, at the peak of Bitcoin, when it's mainstream, all the media is putting it out, everybody's talking about it, your friends, family, Uber drivers, co-workers, etc., right? When you start hearing from people like that, it's because it's trending. And if it's trending it's too late, right? When it's boring that nobody's talking about it, that's when you want to buy. Right now, I was just live on Instagram and I had a lot of people telling me, why is the market so boring right now? Why is nothing happening? Why prices going down, et cetera, et cetera. That's when that's a sign to me that this is a good opportunity to buy. This is a good time to still be accumulating. And that's why I think this is your final opportunity to buy Bitcoin at a price that once it takes off and once it starts trending, is going to be too late, right? So continuing with this experiment I did. So if I would have just held it, right, since I bought it till today, it'd be worth $63,000. Incredible return, right? Incredible return. If I would have been buying the top and selling the bottom, obviously the worst strategy you can do. So the next part, and this is the most interesting part, is if you bought at a very specific time and you sold at a very specific time, the only thing that we're taking into account is when the Bitcoin halving is, and just building a schedule to buy and sell around it based on the patterns that I just showed you guys, right? Based on these patterns. So if I would have used, had those same $650 invested, bought one Bitcoin, but sold 18 months after the halving of 2016, I would have sold at around $15,000, right? So if we look at it here, let me pull it up on the chart here. Go all the way back to 2016. 18 months later is about 548-ish days. So we would have sold. We wouldn't have caught the top because this is the top here, right? We would have sold a few weeks later. This ranged between $13,000 to $17,000. Let's say we sold somewhere in the middle, $15,000, right? Let's say $15,000. So that $650 would have turned into $15,000. And let's say I just went away and forgot about it. And look at all this. We would have avoided all this. So when do we come back? When do we buy Bitcoin again? So basically the idea is to come back. Do I have it here? Here it is. 6 months pre-halving. So about 180 days. We would have bought at some point here, which Bitcoin at this point was ranging between $8,300 and $9,000. Let's say we bought at $8,500, right? At $8,500, $15,000 would have got us about 1.765 Bitcoin at the time. So now we just went from only having one Bitcoin to having 1.765. And then we did the exact same thing. We sold it 18 months later. So we come all the way over here, 18 months later. Let's see, did we catch the top? We almost did. Look at this. Sell at the exact top. Let's say we sold at the average of the low and high for that week. The low was 62, high was 69. So let's say we sold around $65,000. Now remember, we don't have, it's not just one Bitcoin anymore. It's 1.765 Bitcoin, which in turn at $65,000 would have been $114,700, right? And then finally, we did the same. We just repeated the same thing. We bought again 6 months pre-halving this time around, which would have been back here. Look at this. This is, it literally would have caught when the pre-halving rally began, right? So this price range would have been between $27,000 to $30,000. Let's say we bought at $28,000. At $28,000, using the money that we had, $114,700, would have got us about 4 Bitcoin, right? We would have around 4.097 Bitcoin. Now, obviously, we don't know what's going to happen 18 months from now. when we would be selling based on this pattern. But just looking at prices right now, are the value of our Bitcoin, of our holdings, because remember, we started with one Bitcoin. Well, because we sold at the right time and bought at the right time, we went from one Bitcoin to 1.765 Bitcoin. Once again, we sold at $65,000 and then we just bought back at $28,000, which then gave us 4 Bitcoin. So we went from 1 Bitcoin to 4 Bitcoin in a matter of, what, 8 years? In 8 years, we went from 1 to 4 and about $250,000. We have about the value of that now would be worth around $250,000. So $250,000 versus if you just buy and hold and you never sold, you'd only have $63,000. Again, $650 investment at $63,000 is still an incredible return, but now you're talking about $63,000 versus $250,000. Big difference. And this is just by doing a very, very simple strategy. You don't need to know how to trade, how to read charts, how to do anything. You just need to know how to set up an alarm on your calendar, on your phone, to be able to do this. And again, we're not catching the exact bottoms. We're not catching the exact tops. That's not the concept of this. The concept is to just use these 4-year patterns to be in the ballpark of the bottom and be in the ballpark of the top, so that we can be in and out and maximize our potential. Because the thing is that everybody buys Bitcoin, but nobody has a plan of when to sell Bitcoin. And that's the idea behind this. You know, you always want to have a plan of not only when to buy, but also of when to sell. So yeah, right now we're in the post-halving phase. So we missed the 6-month window. However, if we look at history, we still have the opportunity to accumulate here and make some nice returns and just sell 18 months later. And you're probably going to be selling not the top, but you'll be in the ballpark of the top, somewhere close to the range of the top, which is going to be sometime in October. So we're looking at October 2025 for that potential peak to come in. So yeah, guys, that's pretty much the main things that I wanted to cover today. So we've been live so far for about half an hour. So I see Giannis is in here. What's going on? Let me know what questions do you guys have. If you guys are in here right now, drop a comment. If you guys have any questions about anything, drop it in the comments and I'll be happy to answer those for you. The video for what I just spoke about, it will be coming out. I will be releasing it next week. I just recorded it yesterday, and I will be. It has to get edited now, and then hopefully at some point next week I should have it. Giannis says, in 4 days, we close a month. If the price drops again around 59K, we're going to have a bearish monthly engulfing candle. It will be the first time in history that the month of the halving is so bearish. Yeah, that's definitely a possibility. Let me see, where are we at right now? Let me go to a cleaner chart because I have a bunch of stuff there. Yeah, so it would have to close below $61,000, right? So I don't think we're gonna close below 61,000. I think we should be fine, especially the next 4 days. I'm not expecting a lot of movement over the weekend. And then we open. Let me see, let me pull up the calendar here. Monday is the 29th. We'll have 2 days next week. So, I mean, I'm not expecting anything crazy over the next 2 days, over the weekend. Usually it's pretty low volumes over the weekends. Unless there's, obviously some type of news or war event or something like that that's out of our control, right? But as long as there's nothing like that, I'm not expecting anything crazy over the weekend. And then Monday, Tuesday, I think will probably range somewhere within where we've been this week. Honestly, this week we've pretty much. Let's see, where did we start this week? This week we started around. We opened at $65,000, and then basically we've just been dropping all week, right? There is a possibility that we could potentially retest this. However, there's also the possibility that this is a higher low here on the daily time frame. So if we're looking at this, we could potentially be seeing something like this, where the trend has changed, and we just set up a new high, and now we're setting up a higher low. So in that case, this is a bullish trend reversal here. Because remember, we had this trend like this. And basically like this. Which was like, so depending how you draw it, it could have been a channel, right, that we just broke out of. Or it could have been on the 4-hour chart, we saw it as more as a falling wedge, something like this. So a falling wedge is a reversal pattern, right? Usually after a falling wedge, when there's a breakout, there's a reversal, right? So we had the breakout. Oh, bro, you guys can't even see the chart. My bad. My bad, Giannis. You can't see the chart. You're looking at my forehead. I'm sorry. So what I'm showing you here, although we're trading within this range, we had this is a daily chart here, where we had a falling wedge, right, with a breakout to the upside, and now kind of a pullback. So as long as we hold this higher low, then we should be fine, right? We should something like that. We come back, we retest. This is actually the breakout area that we're retesting right now. If you kind of draw a straight line, we're retesting exactly where we broke out from. So from here, what I want to see technically on the chart is a continuation up and a higher high. We need to go higher than this point here. Where would that target be for me? $69,000 is where I would place that target for me. So it would be 69 is probably somewhere around here. I think we could potentially get a test of 69, between 69 to 70,000. Maybe we get something like this where it drops back down to the trend line. This trend line is probably around 64, 65. Then another continuation up, right? And then this time maybe we can test 72,000. And then, you know, potentially another thing like this. And then we can retest the previous all-time highs. Another, you know, retest down to 68, 69. And then potentially get that breakout there. Now, this could take a long time. This is very short here. This could take a long time. And this could take like the next 3 months. There could also be, because if we're agreeing that we're trading within this range and we're in a accumulation zone here, it could simply be something where you know, we kind of do something similar, where we're doing something like this. We hit the highs, and then we do something like this, where we retest the bottom of this range, right? Because we're in that accumulation area. So those are two different scenarios that could happen. Obviously, we have to wait and see. We don't know which one's going to happen. So the first thing here is going to be for Bitcoin's price to hold this higher low. So we saw a higher high, which broke this structure. It was a change of structure when we broke out of here and set up a new higher high, right? The previous higher highs was around here. So we have an obvious higher high here. Change of character, right? Now we need this higher low. We need it to be above this. So even if we do drop down here to $60,000, we still have the pattern. We still have a higher low. Now, if in the next 4 days, can we drop down to 60,000? I don't think so, but it is possible, right? It is possible. Like, for example, I don't know why we're dropping today. There's really there's no reason technically why we should continue down, right? There's some news. So news is a little bearish in the overall economy. Inflation has stayed high. We have the people talking about the probability of rate cuts continue to drop lower and lower and lower. So things like that are kind of affecting the overall economy, and I guess is why Bitcoin's been dropping over this week, because it's just been a lot of bearish overall news this week. But there's also been a lot of bullish news. We have Hong Kong they're gonna be doing having ETFs on their trading exchange. That's very bullish news. And Bitcoin hasn't reacted to that at all this week, which is crazy. But we haven't seen any type of reaction from Bitcoin on the Hong Kong news. That is a very, very bullish news, because if you remember, just a few years ago, China was banning Bitcoin, right? China banned Bitcoin multiple times. And now they're putting Bitcoin ETFs in their stock exchange. That is very bullish news, yet Bitcoin has had zero reaction. There's zero price reaction from that news. So we'll see. It's supposed to start trading on the 30th of this month. We're going to have to wait and see how that happens, how that reacts there. So waiting for that. Obviously, the other bullish news is that the Bitcoin halving just happened. So anybody who studies the history of the Bitcoin halving cycle and what Bitcoin's price does after the Bitcoin halving shouldn't be selling. We're at the bottom of the range, right? We're at support basically. So there's really no reasons to be selling. I don't know why people are selling. I don't know. I imagine it's institutional money selling. I can't imagine retail investors selling here. There's just no point to be selling here. There's no point to be short here, because we're at support. So it's just we're just waiting and seeing at this point. And as we already spoke about, historically, right? Historically, we know what's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. We know within this next 90-day window, we're not expecting to see much, right? We could see retest the bottom of this range here. We saw it in previous halving cycles when we were in the post halving. We retested the bottom of that range, right? We saw it here again in 2016. We actually set a even lower. We broke below the bottom of that range there during that time. But guess what? Eventually it went up. Same thing here. Eventually it went up, and I think we're just gonna see a repeat of that same thing. Doesn't matter how low we might drop here. Doesn't matter we set up a bullish engulfing chart, a monthly candle here. I think eventually we're gonna go up. So even though it might seem worrisome in the short term, long term I don't think there's too much to worry about as far as that. I think 6 months from now, Bitcoin's price is gonna be higher than what it is right now. I definitely believe 12 months from now we'll be a lot higher, and 18 months from now we'll probably be seeing the peak of the bull run. What is going on, 300 Rivers? Appreciate you joining in. We're at the 46-minute mark. So if you guys have any other questions, let me know in the comments. If not, we'll wrap things up here. If you just want to say hi in the comments, say what's up. Don't forget, guys, to like and subscribe to the channel. we're posting content like this every week. We're live streaming right now on Mondays and on Fridays. So both days we're doing whatever's going on in the market. We're talking about it, going over it, things like that. And now we will also be. I'm trying to get back to doing one video per week, where we put together content to really help you guys just kind of have an overall idea on what's going on, whether it be what we're doing next week, the optimal buy and hold strategy, or will it be advanced trading strategies and things like that. It's gonna be content to help you guys make as much money as humanly possible during this bull run. So that's the idea here, for all of us to just make crazy money throughout this bull run, for me to help you guys with that, and hopefully we all just retire and you guys don't have to work regular jobs anymore and just do crypto full time. Financial freedom, that is a purpose here, right? That's what we all want. That's what I'm trying to help you guys get. So I don't see any other questions here. So I'm gonna wrap things up. Appreciate you guys. Make sure if you guys are in here to smash that like button. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. Next week we have a new video coming out. The optimal and easiest buy and hold strategy for Bitcoin. We just covered it a little bit today. In the video, I go a little bit more in depth with it. So make sure to tune in. Make sure to turn on notifications so that you catch that video when I release it next week. Again, guys, thank you guys so much for tuning in. For those of you who tuned in, for those of you who asked questions and chatted and left a comment, appreciate you guys. See you guys on the next one. As always, peace and love, guys.